Welcome to the training for Class A and B operators of underground storage tanks, also known as USTs. This is the first of 12 training modules applicable to this program. I am Suzanne Piccone, the Operator Training Specialist for the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, NHDES. In this presentation, and those that follow, my colleagues and I will be giving you an overview of the training and compliance requirements that apply to owners and operators of regulated UST facilities in New Hampshire. A UST facility consists of many components that we'll discuss in this training, the most obvious being the tank itself, which most are double-walled, to catch and contain a leak that would otherwise go straight into the ground. For New Hampshire residents, more than 60% of us use groundwater as a source of drinking water, so it's very important that we keep the lands and waters as clean as possible. The general areas of the UST system start at the fill riser, where product is delivered to the tank, the vent riser, which guides vapors out, and any piping that allows product to be moved from the tank to another destination, like a dispenser at a gas station, for example. A non-dispensing facility would be a heating oil system, where the pipes lead to the boiler room furnace. Regardless of its use, the piping system also consists of one or more containment sumps that allow these components to be accessible at ground level while also containing any leaks that might happen at these locations. Most UST facilities have a monitoring system. Some are electronic and use sensors that are placed around the tank and the pipes, and they sound off an alarm when something is wrong. The operators would then respond to find out what the alarm is for, do some sort of action to fix the problem, or relay the message to someone that will. We'll discuss all of these in further detail. In this training, we'll also discuss other forms of protection, like corrosion protection. Depending on the equipment at your facility, the compliance rules vary. To assist owners and operators in the variations across the state, we have split the training into two types of certifications, one for dispensing facilities, like gas stations, airports, and marinas. The other exam offered with this program applies to non-dispensing facilities, like those who use heating oil, like hospitals, schools, corporate buildings, and the like. For those of you who plan to take the non-dispensing exam, you will not be expected to view the vapor recovery presentation. However, all other topics do apply. I'd like to take a moment to mention that Spruce Wheelock has retired, though we have incorporated some of his teachings into this training. This next slide is a note from Spruce about our program and our efforts.
One thing I want you to remember from these classes is we, the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, are here to help you. Yes, we are regulating you, but we're here to help you maintain compliance, hopefully not have a release or spill into the environment. We're trying to protect our customers, the people of the state of New Hampshire. We're here to help you. We're not here to penalize you. We are here to help you maintain compliance and protect the environment.
The training requirements differ amongst the three classes of operators, so in a moment I'll review each one individually so that you can decide which role fits you and what you need to do after your training. Like what documents are needed to meet the requirements. Some documents need to be sent in to NHDES, and others need to be posted at your facility. I'll also review the options for recertification, which must happen within 2 years from your certification date, and in what instance you may have to repeat your training sooner. And lastly, I'll guide you through the basics of inspections. There's a 3-year state inspection, and there's a monthly checklist that must be done by the operators. According to the RSA for operator training, every facility needs to designate a Class A, B, and C operator. Sometimes facilities will train several people, but do not designate them formally, which can be helpful if they suddenly need to list a different operator. At a minimum, you can have the same person be formally designated in all 3 classes. Operators must be trained by an approved program for New Hampshire, like this online program or our in-person class. The International Code Council, ICC, has 2 certifications that were approved for New Hampshire. The National Class A Operator Exam has been approved for Class A levels, and retrofitting and installations has been approved for Class B levels. These and several options for Class C operators are posted on our website within the operator training section of the fuel storage tank page. A how-to on navigating these web pages will be reviewed in the one-stop presentation. Class A operators are the highest level of operators because they handle everything for the facility and ideally would be the owner themselves. The owner can designate someone else as their Class A operator. However, this does not relieve the owner from liability for non-compliance with the UST rules. Class B operators do almost everything that a Class A operator does, but perhaps not as much of the administrative type tasks, like registration, permits, or financial responsibility. That's more of a Class A operator role. In contrast, the Class B operators do what's needed to meet the UST requirements. They are the ones who must be familiar with the UST components in order to manage the day-to-day operations, maintenance, and record keeping. Class C operators are those who must respond to alarms or emergencies. They are usually the ones who are on-site most often, or could be on-site quickly to help with UST-related problems like a spill or release to the environment. An emergency can happen at any time, and Class C operators are the first ones responding for your facility, so they must be trained before they assume their roles. In some cases, facilities train several people to be Class C level operators, so that each shift has someone who can respond appropriately. Because each facility has specific procedures on how they want their personnel to address a spill or an emergency, it's ideal that Class C operators get on-the-job training by the Class A or Class B operators. Or, if that's not an option for you, there are online training programs for Class C operators that we have approved for use in New Hampshire. They are listed in the operator training section of our website. For training Class C operators, these are the things their training must include: the basic facility layout, like the location of the UST, the fill, the vent, or the leak monitor, or the emergency stop button, how to read the leak monitor, how to act on an alarm or an emergency. That includes instructions of where and in what instance you would want them to hit the shutoff button or to activate any fire suppression systems if you have them. Once your Class A and B operators have been certified, they are not formally designated as an operator for a facility until they send a completed Statement of Training form to us at NHDES. It is acceptable for operators to remain unlisted, which they do sometimes to be available as a backup. However, this is how operators are designated and updated. This form lists information like the facility site number and location, the operator's name and training date and expiration date, the owner's name and address, and most importantly, the form must be signed by both the operators and the owner. For certifications through another program, please also include a copy of your certificate. This form is one of the required training documents that must be posted at the facility, preferably in an area where it can be easily accessible. It's the list of Class C operators. This form is an acknowledgement that they have demonstrated they are familiar with their responsibilities. The form lists the facility information, the names of the operators, their training and expiration dates, the name of the training program, or the person of whom they were trained. Another document that's required for operator training to be posted at your facility is the response guidelines. These vary from one facility to another, so I'll share the basic requirements of what has to be put on the document, and the rest you can write according to your own procedures. The RSA states that this document shall at least include reporting procedures, contact information of who you want your operators to contact in the event of an emergency, and details of how you want them to handle faulty equipment or how to handle an emergency. All of these training-related documents have been made available to you in the materials section of the online test, as well as on our website. Upon passing your training program, your certification will expire in 2 years. This limit applies to all 3 levels of operators. To see what's available for recertifying, look on our website for the most current list of approved training programs and a schedule of upcoming exams or classes. For those of you who have a good understanding of the UST rules and training requirements, there is an option to take just the recertification exam. Operators must study on their own. This option is only available for operators with facilities that are in compliance. Otherwise, this option will not be allowed. We strongly recommend that you participate in the online option or attend a training session so that you can learn about what has changed over the past 2 years. If NHDES determines that a facility is not in significant compliance with the applicable state rules and statutes, then we will direct the Class A and B operators to repeat their training. Within 30 days, they would need to be retrained and recertified in accordance with an approved training program, or declare another operator. In either case, a statement of training form must be sent in again. Federally regulated facilities must be inspected every 3 years. They are witnessed by a state inspector, but are completed by someone of the owner's choosing, either by someone on site or with the assistance of a hired contractor. These inspections are announced beforehand, so you can coordinate your schedule with that of the inspectors. During the visit, they'll need to verify various components of your facility to make sure things are up to date, like tests, training, and documentation. In addition, various items will need to be measured and tested to make sure they will operate appropriately. Your attendance to these inspections is encouraged because it is a nice opportunity to get additional training on the equipment at your facility and ask questions directly. Details of the inspection will be written in a letter of compliance and given to the point of contact. If deficiencies are found, the letter will make reference to the rule as well as the time frame in which it must be addressed. Whatever the remedy, NHDES must receive confirmation in writing in order for us to put your facility back into compliance. Operator training requirements are a part of your facility's compliance. During the state inspection, the inspectors will verify that your operators hold a current certification, that your documents were submitted to us to designate your Class A and B operators, that other documents are posted, like the Class C operators or the spill response guidelines, and the inspectors will review your monthly visual inspections. This is the monthly visual inspection. It is a 2-page form. It is the responsibility of the Class A and B operators, but they can designate it to someone else and record the names on the form if you do. This does not alleviate the responsibilities of the Class A and B operator, so make sure you are clear about the details in which these inspections are completed. If anything is found wrong during the inspections, record that on the form and have it corrected within 30 days. Make sure you retain these forms for a minimum of 3 years. The first item in the monthly inspection is to check the vent risers. You'll be looking for visible damage. This is what the risers should look like. They extend to a tall height above the rooftop. They are secured and protected to prevent damage. This photo shows a vent riser that has been damaged. The pipe has been pushed over, most likely from a vehicle in the parking lot, and it now leans off to the side at a noticeable angle. Most vent risers are metal pipes above ground, but fiberglass underground. So the riser being bent this far over likely has a break in the fiberglass and would vent flammable vapors out at ground level. Doing your monthly inspections, you can catch obvious issues like this and hopefully prevent a disaster from happening at your facility. These are different versions of vent caps. They vary depending on the type of product being stored in the tank and by different manufacturers. Small ones are usually found on heating oil systems. They are simple caps, designed to keep water and pests like bees out. The larger ones, with labels on the side, are for gasoline facilities and are designed to let out vapors at a certain pressure. For purposes of conducting your monthly visual inspection, check on these caps and make sure that it looks like they are in place and are intact. These signs can easily be recognized at ground level. When checking your vent caps, you'd be looking for visible damage like the cap on the left, which is missing the top lid. Heavy storms can result in damage like this, so it's important that you have it fixed when you notice it and record the work on your monthly form. As for spill buckets, this is what you'd see when you take off the ground level cover and look down. Underneath the gray cap is the fill riser, where the delivery driver connects their hose to the fill adapter to fill your UST with product. The spill bucket is designed to catch and contain any drips or spills that may happen during the delivery process. Check your spill buckets for the presence of oil, water, or debris. This photo is not what you want to see on your monthly inspections, but if you do, then you'll have to get it cleaned out. Remember to wear gloves when cleaning out spill buckets. Use nitrile gloves instead of latex because they can provide the protection you need against petroleum products. Do not use a shop vac to take out the liquids. They can spark and could be dangerous to use with mixtures that may contain flammable liquids. You can use a hand pump or a cup and some rags. They'll work equally as good. Please note that the water should not be dumped onto the ground. It must be disposed of properly. This image shows a cross-section of a double-walled spill bucket that shows what it looks like on the inside. You can clearly see the separation of the inner and outer wall and the gauge that would indicate whether there's any liquid in the space between the double walls. More and more facilities are installing double-walled spill buckets, so if you have this at your facility, it also needs to be part of your monthly inspection. Gauges for double-walled spill buckets are located off to the side of the fill riser pipe. Some have color indicators that change from green to red when there's a presence of liquid within the double walls. Others have a simple level gauge to let you know the amount that's in the space of the double walls, if there is any. Whichever you have, keep the dirt off the top so it'll be easy to read the indicator. Double-walled spill buckets with gauges that are not indicating a presence of oil or water, or electronic sensors that are not in alarm, would mean that you are potentially exempt from the triennial tightness testing requirement. When checking your fill adapter cap, first you want to check to make sure that it is a tight fit. Just give the cap a wiggle and make sure it doesn't move freely. Then take the cap off and look underneath to make sure the gasket is there and in good condition. For heating oil, with caps like this, which is smaller, they would thread on, but you could check them just the same. Within the spill buckets and under other small ground level covers, the fill adapters are the places where the delivery driver connects their hoses to your UST system. The photo on the left shows a fill adapter, where product would be put into the tank during a delivery. Fill adapters are also connections where vapors can be collected out of the system during a delivery, as shown on the photo on the right. This is a poppet valve, also known as a dry brake adapter. The poppet is a part of the vapor recovery equipment, a requirement at gasoline dispensing facilities, something another presentation will explain. But for the purposes of your monthly inspections, if you have this equipment, you want to give it a wiggle and ensure that it's threaded on tight. When delivery drivers connect their hoses to poppet valves, the elbow connection equipment pushes down on the center of the valve and opens the pathway for vapors to be taken out. During your inspections, check for a continuous seal by pressing down on the center. A puff of air may come out, so try not to breathe it in. What you want to see happen is that it pops back up into place and seats properly. If the spring inside is broken, it will tilt to the side like what's shown on the photo on the left. You can clearly see the valve has a gap and will not contain vapors in the UST systems and could let water in. Check for obstructions in the drop tube like this. If an inventory stick is left in there, it will interfere with the overfill protection devices installed in the tube. At times, errors can be made, but checking for things like this on a monthly basis, you can catch issues before they become a problem. At the time of replacing your fill adapter, it is a requirement that it be replaced with a swivel type. This has a top part that turns freely without unthreading the adapter from the riser pipe. This requirement applies to all types of regulated products, so whether you store heating oil, diesel, kerosene, gasoline, etc. With older styles of adapters, they can get unthreaded and wiggle loose over time with the processes of a delivery, as hoses are dragged around and equipment is connected on and off. For those of you who operate dispensing facilities, make sure you check the dispenser hoses for tears, leaks, cracks, or fibers sticking out, or perhaps that the coating may be chipping off, exposing the materials underneath. In this picture, the rubber boot on the nozzle is in very poor condition. It has several tears and needs to be replaced. Issues aren't always this obvious, so give a quick look at the seams, connections, and other parts to make sure things aren't leaking, bent, or loose. Annually, every year, you want to open the covers to your dispensers and look around inside for any signs of leaking, whether water is collecting, or if there's debris. Of course, you would note on the form how you addressed any issues, but definitely make sure you record the date of this annual inspection so that you won't miss the date you need to do it the following year. When you look down into the containment sumps, where the piping goes underground, look for any cracks in the base and the walls of the sump. These are areas that are designed to catch and contain any leaks at the dispenser, so you certainly wouldn't want any cracks to let out product or let in any groundwater that could corrode the metal parts of your dispenser, causing you to have to replace the equipment sooner than you normally would. Be sure to check the filters for any weaving that causes staining. It might just be loose and needs to be tightened, but if you notice that this is a reoccurring issue each month, then it could be a sign that something else is happening. In the top photo here, it appears that the gasket has softened on one filter but not the other. But at a closer look, the staining is indicating that the drip came from higher up in the dispenser, so the operators put in a service call to their maintenance contractor to investigate further. Soil should not be in contact with metal pipes or fittings. It's normal for New England facilities to experience the result of seasonal changes like frost heaves and flooding that can shift soils around, but this can negatively affect the piping systems, as pipes can be moved by such forces and be bent over time. So check the pipes for things like this and make sure they aren't leaking, damaged, or bent. All types of facilities have some sort of dispensing area. For gasoline station, it's out at the pumps. For heating oil, it's in the boiler rooms. You need to be checking these areas at least monthly to look for the presence of any spills. Here are a few other things to be mindful of when checking your dispensing area. Keep an eye out for damage done by plowing, like what happened to this fence. If your facility has positive limiting barriers, PLBs, which are the grooves in the pavement designed to catch and contain a spill that happens at ground level, then you don't want to see any cracks because they will not be able to contain any liquid. Also with PLBs, be aware that when replacing hoses, the length of the hose must be considered because they cannot extend beyond the barrier. These are leak monitors. The operator training RSA refers to them as alarm annunciation panels, as they announce a beep when the sensors have detected liquid in the containment areas. All that's required of you on a monthly basis is to verify that they are still operating continuously and that they are not in alarm. If they are in alarm, they must be addressed within 30 days and investigated, as this is a potential unusual operating condition. There are additions to the new monthly inspection forms. Now you can record the date of things you'd check on an annual basis. These include checking the containment sumps once a year, whether piping sumps or dispenser sumps, You'd want to check for leaks and that they are free of liquid. Unlike this top photo, which shows the sump full of dirty water, this would have to be addressed. For any systems that have double-walled containment sumps, whether spill buckets, piping, or dispenser sumps, you'd check those annually as well to make sure they are free of liquid and that you've removed the sensors within the interstitial spaces to inspect them for proper length and functionality. Be sure to carry these dates to future monthly forms so that you'll know when the next annual inspection approaches. Functionality. This has been a presentation for the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, NHDES. I am Suzanne Piccone, the UST Operator Training Specialist in Concord, New Hampshire. This is my contact information should you want to contact us for any questions about UST operator training.